first question for you, I mean, there is a lot going on at the State Department right now. I guess just talk a little bit about kind of first question. Secretary of State Rubio obviously has sort of some other things added to his plate. Just kind of talk about how it's all going to work moving ahead.
Well, I think what it shows is everything that has been accomplished in the last 100 days and everything that we will accomplish in the next 100 days. This partnership, this collaboration we've seen between President Trump and Secretary Rubio, but really the entire team. Again, those accomplishments we've seen really have been historic, and there's no other term for it. So we're going to continue seeing that collaboration. We're going to continue seeing that vision with President Trump directing this America First foreign policy, and then Secretary Rubio and others implementing that vision in collaboration across agencies with President Trump to make sure we're delivering results for the American people.
But it seems to me the Secretary of State is already a big job. Adding National Security Advisor to those list of priorities, I mean, that's got to be tough, right?
Well, look, again, I think it's a testament to what's been accomplished so far, to all the many accomplishments that have been in place over this last 100 days, whether you're talking about the border, with illegal border crossings down 95%, the deals we've seen with other countries in terms of deportations or combating transnational crime, whether we're talking about pursuing peace. So we have seen so many results already because of President Trump, Secretary Rubio, the collaboration across the entire team. We're going to continue seeing that, and I think what's happening now is a testament to the collaboration, the communication, and the fact that we've delivered results, and we'll keep on delivering results.
I want to sort of just take a trip around the global chessboard for a moment. Let's start with China. What are some of the biggest challenges, no matter who the president is, but what are some of the biggest challenges right now that Secretary of State Rubio is going to be facing with China?
Well, look, I think one of the important things you're seeing, and President Trump, Secretary Rubio have talked about this, Secretary was talking about this just the other day, the unfair trade practices that we see from the CCP, the unfair trade practices that take advantage of the American people, take advantage of the American worker. And President Trump and Secretary Rubio have said, enough is enough. We're no longer going to have the American worker being taken advantage of. We're going to put the American worker first. So that's a massive problem that we've seen that we need to address, and President Trump is the first one to address it. And I think another important problem of many that we're dealing with is the flow of fentanyl. I mean, we're seeing fentanyl come across the border. Fentanyl is a leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45. President Trump took action from the beginning of his administration to combat that flow, and many of the precursors of fentanyl start in China. That's where they start, and then they flow across our border through various means, usually with cartels. So we saw strong action from President Trump and at the State Department designating the cartels, or several of them, foreign terrorist organizations. So we're seeing strong action to address these issues.
It's interesting. I've done a host of stories about China. So whether it's the unfair trade practices, the fentanyl, the stealing our intelligence, stealing our technology. There are so many ways in which China is a top adversary. Why do you think it took so long for a president to kind of be tough?
Well, what I can say is that President Trump has been tough. He's been taking action from his first day in office, and really the previous administration when he's last in office as well. So what we saw is under President Trump's last administration, he started taking the steps. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a pause there for 4 years, but now President Trump is back in office, and he's taking steps from the beginning of this administration, and will continue taking those steps again to address the flow of fentanyl, to address those unfair trade practices, to make sure that we're protecting our intellectual property. So President Trump is a man of action, and I think what I can speak for now is the action that President Trump, Secretary Rubio have taken to address a lot of these concerns.
Let's move on to Russia. Clearly, the Ukraine-Russia war is something that President Trump said he was going to figure out and try to solve on his first day, or maybe his first week in office. It's now been more than 100 days, and this hasn't happened. What's the deal here?
Well, we're closer to peace than we ever have been, and that's because of President Trump, who has brought the parties to the table, who's had engagement from the top levels of this administration, including Secretary Rubio. What has been clear, though, now is we need to see serious movement towards that peace. We have a framework, we have a way forward that we'd like to see, but we need to see the parties move together, see that serious movement towards peace in order to continue with this process. We're not going to have meetings for the sake of meetings, and that's been clear from President Trump, Secretary Rubio. Americans watching at home will see many times in past administrations there have been meetings that haven't led to anything. That's coming to an end under President Trump. If we're going to have meetings, if we're going to fly around the world, we want to see results. We want to see constructive dialogue. That's been clear. We need to see that constructive dialogue. We're not going to have meetings for the sake of meetings. And if we don't see that progress, we're going to have to focus on other priorities, many of which we were just discussing.
We saw this week a deal signed between Ukraine and the United States, a minerals deal. President Zelensky seems to be sort of willing to come to the table for just about everything. Talk a little bit about kind of how significant this deal was, and also if there's any deals ahead with Russia.
Well, look, I'm not going to preview where these talks might go. This is a very dynamic situation, but on that deal, it's a first of its kind, historic reconstruction investment fund between the United States and Ukraine. And it really is about the mutual benefit that we're going to see between the people of Ukraine and the United States, with 50% of the profits from that fund being devoted back into other projects in Ukraine to see that reconstruction. And again, that mutual economic benefit between the United States and the Ukraine. And what it does is also send a clear message that the United States has vested interests in Ukraine, vested economic interests in Ukraine. So there are a lot of elements here that are incredibly important, and also a very good sign for the American people, the benefit that they'll see from this as well, including the people of Ukraine.
Let's move on to some of the relationships that Secretary Rubio is trying to forge with some other countries in terms of a place to send a lot of the undocumented migrants that have been deported. Obviously, we saw during the last 4 years millions and millions of people come over, some claiming asylum, some sort of, I guess, sneaking in. And the Trump administration, as we all know, has been pretty aggressive in trying to deport people. I know it's important to have relationships with other countries because there's not enough room or facilities here in the United States to keep them. Talk a little bit about what's happening on that front, what countries you think might be willing to help out.
Well, look, on a broad level, what we're seeing now is illegal border crossings down 95% compared to last year. 95%. That is a clear promise made, promise kept from this administration. And that's in part because of the work that Secretary Rubio and others have done for partnerships around the region to both accept their nationals, countries that are accepting nationals from other countries as well that are illegally present in the United States, but also then efforts to combat transnational crime. And that's a very important part of this as well, because really the only people that benefit from this mass illegal immigration that we've seen in the previous administration were the transnational criminals, were the cartels who were taking advantage of countries, taking advantage of people. President Trump securing the border, that decrease of 95% is a huge promise made, promise kept, but then also addresses other issues we were talking about, such as the flow of fentanyl. And we're seeing cooperation around the world, but especially in our region, to combat transnational crime and illegal immigration, because there's this recognition of the fact that, of course, illegal immigration hurts the United States, but it hurts all of the countries along this route. This needs to come to an end. Countries are stepping up, coming to an end, and we thank our partners that are working with us to end the illegal immigration crisis.
I know Senate Democrats yesterday threatened to force a vote on a bill that would require a human rights report on El Salvador. And if that report is not done by the Trump administration, I believe it would fall under your department, the State Department, then all aid to El Salvador would have to end. If they are able to get enough votes on this, will the State Department make this report happen?
Well, look, El Salvador has been a great friend to the United States, a great partner to the United States in ending the illegal immigration crisis, or at least addressing it and combating transnational crime. I'm not going to preview or speculate what might happen in terms of Congress, but I want to thank El Salvador for the work they've done in partnering with us to address this illegal immigration crisis. And again, it's a perfect example of how this transnational crime affects so many nations in our region, how it needs to come to an end, and how the American people want it to come to an end, and how when we address transnational crime, we end illegal immigration, it leads to mutual prosperity in our entire region.
So there's no concerns about the human rights abuses that are well known across the country?
Well, look, again, I want to stress the fact that El Salvador has decreased crime in their country and has worked with us to end the illegal immigration crisis, or at least take steps to get there. We need to end transnational crime. We need to end illegal immigration. And again, the only people that benefit from illegal immigration on this scale, especially on this scale, are the transnational criminals. The transnational criminals with evidence that shows that that route to the border under the previous administration was one of the most dangerous in the world. We need to see it come to an end. President Trump is putting it to an end, and we're working with countries around the world to end illegal immigration and address transnational crime.
And Tommy, is there any topics that I didn't ask you about that you really wanted to make sure we talked about?
Well, one thing I really want to stress is that we have an America First foreign policy, and the State Department every single day, from the first day that Secretary Rubio set foot in the building, has been pursuing an America First foreign policy. But when we do that, we find that common interest, that mutual interest in working with other countries, and that makes everybody better off.
Well, hey, it was great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.